So as a Miami Dolphins fan, I know exactly what an incompetent front office looks like. And on the NBA side of things, it looks exactly like the Chicago Bulls, who have been a below average team for years, yet refuse to sell any of their nice pieces. Until now, where Jake Fisher is reporting that apparently the Chicago Bulls are finally willing to trade nearly their entire roster. Now, of course, this started this past offseason where they finally let go of DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso, and it seems like they want to continue until they just get rid of everyone and get as much assets as possible. Now, of course, this excites me as a Heat fan, so I got into the trade machine and cooked up an absolutely masterful trade that can save the Miami Heat, save the Los Angeles Lakers, and also works out really, really well for the Chicago Bulls. So stay tuned later in this video where I will be showing off that trade. Now, I do want to say that it's not based around Zach Lavine because although he is having a very nice bounce back season after being injured for the last couple, he's averaging 22 points per game, very efficient shooting. He's at 51% from the field, 43% from three, and most importantly, he's played every single game. So I feel very good for him, and he's definitely got a lot of his trade value back up. But as a guy who's making $43+ million this year and next year, and then has a $48 million player option the following year, I just can't see the Miami Heat trading for him, especially since him and Tyler Hero have a lot of similarities on the court. But there is two other guys on the Bulls that should interest the Miami Heat. Now, of course, that's Lonzo Ball and Nikola Vucevic. Originally, what's going on, y'all? I'm just here to tell y'all to like the video and subscribe because it does help me out a lot, and I greatly appreciate it. Peace out. I'll be showing you later. It's so good that I do think it deserves its own video. So, of course, Heat fans are very familiar with Nikola Vucevic. He spent years killing the Miami Heat with our division rival. Well, I don't know if you can call the Magic a division rival because they kind of always sucked up until now. But Nikola Vucevic did not suck. He always used to kill the Miami Heat in his days in Orlando. He even once had a game where he had 20 points and 29 rebounds versus us. Now, in that game where Vucevic dominated, the Miami Heat starting lineup consisted of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, my friend Mario Chalmers.
You said it.
Well, I could cut out whatever I want to cut out.
Oh.
And Udonis Haslem. So obviously that was a very long time ago. And I want to address the fact that first, Nikola Vucevic is 34 years old, just turned 34 a month ago. So I want to acknowledge that because I am very tired of the Heat signing / trading for these guys that are a bit over the hill like PJ Tucker or Kyle Lowry in recent memory, because of course those guys had their moments early on, but it's only a short matter of time before things start to go downhill, and it happens very, very quick where you get that decline in production. And on top of that, in the entire Jimmy Butler era for the Miami Heat, they have been no higher than 27th in pace. They've always been a very slow team, including this season, where they're currently 28th in pace. And I think that's part of the reason that the offense has struggled so much in this tenure, these last 6 years of this era, because in today's NBA, I think you got to play fast. That's just the way it is nowadays. And of course, getting Nikola Vucevic will make the pace even worse. But just because Vuce doesn't play with a lot of pace doesn't mean that he can't help this offense. Because this season, he's averaging 21 points per game on 58% shooting and 47% shooting from three on 5 attempts. Just absolutely insane numbers. Now, of course, that efficiency will certainly even out eventually as the season goes on. But I do think even with a little bit of a decrease, those are very, very good numbers. Now, I just hope it doesn't decrease to as bad as he was last season, because he was abysmal with the Bulls. He quite literally fell off a cliff and looked like one of the worst contracts in the NBA. Trust me, I'm sure a lot of y'all listen to Kenny Beecham, king of the fourth quarter, numbers on the board. He's all over the place. Shout out to my guy. But he has been nonstop talking about how bad the Vucevic trade was last season, where I think Vucevic last year was averaging 18 points per game and 48% from the field, which is not bad. But the three-point shooting was at 29%, and that was on 4.5 attempts last season. Now, truthfully, he's been up and down from a shooting perspective in his whole time in Chicago. But obviously, from a Heat perspective, That's very concerning because we already got spacing concerns as it is with Jimmy Butler not really being a floor spacer. Bam Adebayo is starting to get into that space in the floor territory, but I'm not quite sure that he's there yet. But that being said, the one thing that Vucevic always could do, even if the shooting doesn't necessarily translate to this current level, the one thing he could always do is rebound the basketball. This season, he's currently averaging 10 boards per game, and he hasn't had a season averaging less than double digits since 2018. And currently, the Heat are 22nd in rebounding, but I don't even need to tell you the numbers because if you've watched a single Heat game in the last 6 years, you know there's size concerns, you know there's rebounding issues, and Nikola Vucevic would obviously help a lot of that. And part of the reason that their rebounding is so bad is because obviously the Heat team is small, but Bam Adebayo is a good rebounder, but he's good at everything on the defensive side of the ball. So a lot of times Bam is out there on the perimeter guarding Kyrie Irving, guarding Damian Lillard, and he'll play impeccable defense just to force a brick by the opposing player. But because Bam is out there on the perimeter, the Heat have no one to secure the rebound. And time again, Bam will get an incredible stop just for the team's opposing big man to get a rebound and put it in. And as a Heat fan, that has been maybe one of the most frustrating things over the last 6 seasons because it really feels like we're limiting what Bam can do. Because I would love to see Bam on the perimeter a ton. I'm recording this a game after the Raptors, and he had spot minutes where he was out there on the perimeter on RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes. A couple games before that, he was guarding Kyrie Irving on the perimeter. And every time he got a stop, it was Derek Lively rebound. It was Jakob Poeltl rebound. And I just feel like it's very, very limiting to what Bam Adebayo can do. But getting a guy like Nikola Vucevic, who can be in there in the paint to clean up all those misses, clean the glass, get all the rebounds, however you want to say it, that will be such an amazing thing for the Miami Heat. So it just goes without saying, from a fit standpoint, I think he'd be awesome here. You know, regardless of the age, especially if he keeps shooting, the fit is perfect with the Miami Heat. So now I kind of want to look at his contract situation where this season he's making $20 million and next season is the final year of his deal where he's making $21 million. So I like this contract because, one, the way he's playing now, $20 million is a steal. The way he was playing last year, it was a bad contract. So obviously me saying I like the value of his contract is relative to how well he's playing. But the bright side is, even if things were to go south this season, he would be an expiring contract next season. And typically expiring contracts are not too difficult to move just because there's always a lot of teams out there that are looking to clear up their salary cap space. And they do that by acquiring a big expiring deal because then, of course, the following offseason, all that money would come off of their books. Now, the one interesting thing when looking at the Heat's cap situation is Vucevic actually makes a similar amount of money to Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier makes about $4 to $5 million more this year and next year. So their length of their contracts are their exact same. So a straight up trade would actually work. But I'm sure the Bulls want to offload money. I don't see why they would do that trade straight up. It doesn't make sense. So I had to get creative. Now, before I show you the trade that I've been hyping up this whole video, I do want to note some of the packages that the Bulls have got for DeRozan and Caruso because maybe it kind of shows what they're looking to get in a deal. Now, for DeRozan, they didn't get much. They got Chris Duarte and 2 second-round picks, but you can't exactly look at that because that was a sign-in trade, so their options were very limited there because they didn't have the leverage. Now, for Alex Caruso, that wasn't a good deal either because they literally traded him straight up for Josh Giddey, who has not been great for the Bulls this season. And it's even more of a shame for Chicago because they traded Caruso to the Thunder, who have 1 million picks, and they couldn't get a single one from the Chicago Bulls or from the OKC Thunder. So it's looking like the Bulls aren't very good when it comes to the whole trade thing. But but it is for certain that they at least want picks or young assets. And this was even confirmed by the other Jake Fisher report that we got, which basically said it's not a confirmed report, but Jake Fisher spoke with another GM who said the asking price for Nikola Vucevic could be about 2 second-round picks. So keep that into account when I show you this trade right here, which is a 3-team deal where the Miami Heat land Nikola Vucevic and our guy Gabe Vincent. and send over to the Chicago Bulls the expiring contracts of D'Angelo Russell, Josh Richardson, a first-round pick from the Heat, or a second-round pick from the Heat, and a second-round pick from the Lakers. And in return, the Lakers would get Terry Rozier and the expiring contracts of Alec Burks and Thomas Bryant. So I'll go by team here, starting with the Miami Heat, where, of course, to get Nikola Vucevic, I just spent this whole video talking about how I think that would be a great fit for the Heat. And from a contractual standpoint, they're not hard capping themselves any more than they would have been before because they're not taking on any more years of additional money. Outside of Gabe Vincent, who, as Heat fans, we love Gabe Vincent, but he has been a disaster for the Lakers. And I guarantee you, if you ask Laker fans if they like this deal, they will say yes, solely off the fact that Gabe Vincent is off their roster. He's shooting well under 30%. He has barely played because there's been a lot of injury concerns there. But I do believe that if the Heat were to get him back in his system, he could sort of maybe get back a little bit to the old Gabe Vincent, which is something that, of course, the Heat need because they really don't have a point guard. They don't have a lot of perimeter of attack defense outside of like Hayward, Highsmith. And I do think Gabe could always provide that defense, at least if he was here. Now, for the Chicago Bulls, they obviously want their 2 second-round picks, and they want to offload that Vucevic money. So they're getting 2 expiring deals and 2 second-round picks. This is an absolute dub for the Chicago Bulls. You can't expect them to get much more value than this because keep in mind, Vucevic is still 34 years old. He's getting paid over $20 million next year at the age of 35. That kind of value, that kind of contract is not going to get you a lot of return in a trade. So the fact they're able to get expiring money, completely expiring money, and the 2 second-round picks, I think this is a very good deal for the Bulls as well. And then from the Lakers standpoint, we already talked about them shedding the Gabe Vincent salary, which, by the way, is $11 million this year and $11 million next year. So they are shedding his salary for next year. But they're also getting rid of D'Angelo Russell. Probably the one guy that Lakers fans hate close to as much as Gabe Vincent is D'Angelo Russell, because he's also having an awful season for them. And it's no secret that the Lakers have been trying to move on from him from years, because whatever he's doing right now, the fit is not working. They're not even starting him anymore. They're starting Austin Reeves and the rookie Dalton Connect. That's how bad D'Angelo Russell has been. And Terry Rozier is not off to a great, efficient shooting season either, but it's still been way better than D'Angelo Russell. I think Russell's at like 30% from 3 and Terry Rozier is at like 36%. And since Terry's come back from the foot discomfort and he's been coming off the bench, his numbers have been a little bit better in the short sample size for the Miami Heat. So that being said, getting a guy like Terry Rozier, I think, is a beautiful piece to the Lakers for the Lakers to have right now. Obviously, a team that's looking to compete with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. That team could use some scoring, and I think Terry Rozier could slot right into that starting point guard spot. Maybe put Connect back to the bench, get Austin Reeves back at the 2. I think Terry Rozier is a guy that could play significant minutes for them right now. And if they do need some more help scoring off the bench, which I think they could use because it's not a very deep team, Alec Burks could play right now for them as well. I know as Heat fans, we're not going to like to see Alec Burks gone because he's had a pretty nice Heat tenure so far this season through the first 15 games or so. He is shooting very well, but I'd be willing to move on from him because the Heat have some other options down the pipeline that could play right now as well. We'll talk about that in just a second because the last guy the Lakers are getting is a Thomas Bryant return. I think it might be like his 2nd or 3rd stint with the Lakers. I don't know if Thomas Bryant would play there right now, but he sure as hell might. Because the Lakers are not very big. They've been looking for a center forever. I don't think Thomas Bryant is great, but he's probably better than Jackson Hayes, to tell you the truth. Maybe not. Maybe that's a bit pushing it. But either way, Burks and Thomas Bryant are both expiring contracts. So if the Lakers didn't want to keep them, they can move on from them this offseason. The biggest plus for them is shedding that salary of Gabe Vincent, getting off D'Lo, and getting Terry Rozier, who could play for them right now. So I think this is an absolute dub for all 3 teams. The Heat would be able to field the starting lineup of Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo at the 4, and then Nikola Vucevic at the 5. If you have defensive concerns, I've been saying this for a while. People call me crazy. Maybe put Duncan back to the bench. Get Hayward, Highsmith, put him at the 2. He's too small to play the 4, so why not play him at the shooting guard? He's shooting 39% from 3 for this 2nd year in a row. Obviously, he can space the floor. Now, I understand the difference between Duncan Robinson spacing and Haywood Highsmith spacing and the offensive movement that comes with it. But just if things were to go bad defensively, because Vucevic is not quite the defender that you'd hope for. But that's why the Heat got Bam Adebayo to help clean up for that. But either way, the Heat would still have a lot of depth here. And if you have concerns about losing Alec Burks and Terry Rozier, well, what this trade also does for the Miami Heat is it opens up another roster spot and about $1 million, which would be enough room to sign one of your 3 two-way players who have been awesome. You could replace Alec Burks with Drew Smith, who has been very, very good in his minutes with the Heat this year. Defensively, he's been great. He's been awesome defensively. The jump shot has improved a ton. And it sounds weird even saying this because I was a big Drew Smith hater last season. But the improvement that he's had has been phenomenal. He's a guy that could play right now, and he's shown that. You also got Kashad Johnson and Josh Christopher, who are dropping 30-point games, multiple 30-point games in the G League right now. Those are 2 guys that could obviously contribute right now to a Miami Heat roster, and doing this trade would open up the money and a salary cap spot to sign one of them to the official team right now so they can start getting some minutes. So anyways, that's pretty much all I got to say for this video. Let me know y'all thoughts down in the trade below. Anytime I post a trade video, there's always a ton of people that hate it, which is always funny because I like it, but let's have a civilized discussion in the comments. I'll be reading all the comments and we'll debate a little bit in there. Make sure to like and subscribe because all the support is greatly, greatly appreciated. And I'll see y'all in the next video. So peace out, everyone.
Look, pull up in your city trying to get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.